Okay, you guys, just so you know, On Demand is now immediately allowing this to be shown. So it premiered just a little bit ago, and it's available on demand. So thanks, On Demand, and of course, Evil Dead, thanks for being so watchable. All right, who has questions? Go for it.
Oh, I've got one. Love the film.
Thank
I'd
you.
like to know of the original three, which one was your favorite and why?
The first one, I think because it was the first one I saw, and it hit me so hard that I fell in love with that film right away. So, and then I remember watching the second one and third one right away. This is basically 90, 91. I was 12, 13. So I don't know why the first one is the one that always hit me better. Because I like my horror, straightforward horror. And I enjoy the comedy horror and that same thing, and I love it. But I prefer the straightforward horror, so that's why I think I love the first one the most. And I think the new film reflects that, right? Because I was going for at least the heart of the original film, right?
On the Blu-ray commentary, you reference an extended cut quite often, actually. I mean, is that something that's going to be coming, like maybe before the release of the inevitable sequel?
I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea. That's usually when you cut a movie, the first cut you do is a longer cut. It's a cut, you put everything, you shoot it. But then you do the best cut of the movie, and the one we're putting out right now, and the one that everybody saw in the theaters. That's what I believe is the best cut of the movie. That's people were asking me about the director's cut, but that's the director's cut. I mean, when you're working with Sam Raimi, you don't have a producer that's going to butcher your film, and you're going to go like, someday I got to show my cut. No, what they let me put out there was my director's cut. So that's what I think is the best version of the film. And then eventually, probably, if people shows up for this one, and we see that people are interested in buying this version, probably eventually studio will want to put a different version out there, and it will be interesting to watch that one, like it always is. It's different, but for me, this is the best version of the film.
Yeah, the Evil Dead Blu-rays and DVDs are known to come out quite often.
They
I
like
don't
to
see
do
any
that.
reason why the remake wouldn't follow suit.
Let's see, I don't know.
Questions? Yes.
Can you talk about getting an R rating and how that came about?
Yeah, I think it was easier than we thought it was going to be. But basically, when you think about ratings, usually you're writing the script, and I wrote the script with a friend of mine, and while you're writing and you deliver and you talk with Sam about it and Rob and Bruce, and from that point you are already kind of, you have the rating in the back of your head, because people ask like, is it incredible how the movie is brutal, but that's not the hard part. Making a brutal movie, or I come up with crazy sick ideas, anybody can do that. The trick is how to keep it on the art side, because there's a bunch of movies that are way more, statistics and crazy and all kind of stuff that is out there, but those movies are NC-17 and they don't see a wide release. So the trick here is how to manage to step right on the line and not cross it, right, and become NC-17, and nobody will see it in the theater. And I believe these films are made to see it in the theater. So basically the challenge started while you were writing, but the good choice we took, and I think that's just because I was being so naive. It's my first movie. I wasn't even thinking about rating. I didn't even care. I didn't know. And they were telling me something like, while I was hearing, it was like, you have to be careful with the rating. I was like, yeah, whatever. It's gonna be NC-17. I didn't. It's not that I didn't care. It's that I didn't know. I didn't understand. So we wrote everything that we want to write. We shoot everything they want to shoot. I mean, they let us do it. Sam was, shoot the movie you think it should be, and we deal with the rating later. And thank God, once we had the cut and we deliver to MPAA, basically it's a process where the studio watches it and they know what's gonna work and what's not gonna work, but they did a great job, because basically all we had to cut down.
I was going to say, were there any cuts that you really wanted, but at the
No,
end
nothing. Everything that I wanted to put there is there. We had to just tone it, like killing some frames out of some shots, like Jane, Mia cutting her tongue in half, Natalie cutting her arms. Those, instead of showing that for 3 seconds, we had to show it for 2 seconds. it's supposed to be like if you expose the audience to that for a little shorter time, it is okay. They're not going to go on rampage and kill people. If you show them
But that extra second.
that extra second.
And whatever you do, not pause it on that frame.
Exactly. Anyways,
Other questions?
I guess there's a logic behind it, but don't ask me.
Yes.
How did you go about walking the line between being faithful to the original and keeping it fresh?
I think the most important thing for me was to make a new movie, a movie that makes sense and a movie that the fans haven't seen before. Otherwise, there's no point. Yeah, it's like when you're gonna play a cover song. If you make it sound the same and try to imitate the voice of the original singer, it sucks. You just play like some shitty bar. But if you do a version of the song that is different, kind of the same heart, that's the song that may become a hit, right? Like there's really a big difference between those things. And so we're trying to make our own song in a way. We're trying to make our own movie, and we didn't want to depend on, we didn't want it to depend too much on the originals. Because what I was hoping to happen, and now that I have, people tweet to me tattoos on their arms of Mia and characters of the movie, it's just insane, right? But it's amazing, like how people embrace it, right? And that doesn't happen with every movie that people love. Oh, I gotta get a tattoo of this movie, right? So it's amazing. And that's when I realized that something that I was hoping for happened, that, when I watch a lot of my favorite horror movies from the 80s, when I watched them, I had no idea there were remakes, right? No idea. Like The Fly or Thing or The Blob. I loved The Blob when it came out. It's a shitty movie, but I loved it. And there was not only remakes, there were remakes from classic horror from the 50s. That people were saying the same thing they're saying today, like, oh, today they'll only do remakes. Bullshit, they always existed. And today we're more informed about it. Back then, you see the lobby cards on the theater, that's all you knew about the movie, right? Like, oh, what is it, you see a poster? You may have seen a trailer, maybe, in the theater, and then you will see the lobby cards and trying to figure out what the movie was. So the fact that it was a remake and adaptation didn't matter. So that's, I think, of today, because everybody knows and everything is on the internet. And so for me, what I was hoping to happen is that I knew that some young kids, a new generation, was going to step into this movie without knowing anything more than, I saw the trailer on TV, whatever, I'm going to watch it. And so those people, they don't put in the balance, like, how many elements of the original, they don't think on those terms. They're just enjoying the film as it is. So sometimes the mistake is a lot of remakes, they just go for the shortcut. They just reproduce whatever happened in the original and they hope that's going to work. And the audiences evolve, and so something that works in the 80s doesn't mean that it's going to work today at all, right? Because fears are different, like, everything changes. So you have to make it for today, you have to make it different, and hopefully, the fact that it's a remake shouldn't be part of what is happening. So once we had a story that makes sense by itself and wasn't connected to the originals, basically that you didn't need to know the originals to understand this film. You could watch it without having seen the originals, you would get it, you understand what's going on. And that's what I was hoping for. But once we had that story, that's when I start like, okay, let's put this there, this thing
Little
there,
nods.
that, yeah, and we start filling it with all kind of stuff, just as a fan, because I wanted to put it there, and I enjoyed that process so much. And there's quotes from the original, there are like elements from the original, there are art elements in the movie that you can find everywhere. This is my favorite one. I always ask me, there was that, if you take a look at the living room, there's a table and there's a deck of cards that is just like thrown there, but every card is put there in the same order that the character in the original film, when she turns, the first character start naming these cards and then turns around, well, they're right there in the same order in the table. So imagine how many of those things are in the film. They're like shitload of those. So the idea was to have enough for the fans, but make sure the movie work anyways.
Yes.
Hi, Fede. How are you?
I did.
Good. I wanted to ask you, with how using CGI, from what I feel there wasn't very much or any
Yeah.
used, and what are your views on that? Because I think you kept it so raw and real, like the old horror movies you were referring to from the 80s and 70s. Do you prefer using non-CGI, up-to-date technology to keep it more real and natural?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the story. I mean, it depends on the story you're telling. There's certain stories they need the CGI because there's no way to tell them otherwise, right? So if there is a way that you can shoot that movie without using CGI, it's always better because it's not gonna get dated so fast, right? Even great CGI today, that you look at it and you go like, my God, we're in the future. Like then in 5 years, it looks like
5 years, 5 months, we're gonna be like, what was that?
It sometimes, I mean, shock you. I mean, there's movies like, I don't know, Avatar, I went to see it and I was like, my God. And then you watch it and you're like, what? There's some moments that are weird. I mean, that happens all the time. So with that in mind, usually if you can stay away from it, if you can, sometimes you cannot. Just some stories that there's no way to tell them without CGI. Yeah, I think you should. And particularly horror movies, there, people wants to feel that it's real, that it's really happening. And you have to shock them with real images and even great CGI. At the end, you can spot it, right? So we decided to use not any CGI in the film, and we end up pulling it off because we end up the trickier stuff. Probably end up doing shooting elements of fire and composing it. But we did VFX. Visual effects that were available like 50 years ago, right? Of split screens, composing one element into another, which is different from CGI because everything you've seen is real, right? And I think it paid off. It was a drag during the shooting, I tell you that, but it paid off.
How about like the river? So the river is
We
just
wait until it flooded. I mean, I had so much fun reading people's commentaries online when the trailer was out and they knew that I was saying that we were using CGI, and they were like, bullshit. That river is CGI. I was like, no way. We shoot in a river at the beginning of the movie when the Jeep crosses, and then we start shooting the movie, and we were waiting for we knew it was going to rain someday. We knew that river would flood the day that it would rain, and we waited, and suddenly it rained, and we sent a small unit there to get the shot, and we have a river.
That's confidence.